All right, guys, let's go ahead and rock and roll. Stop this. All right, welcome everyone. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Welcome everyone. This is and I am recording this. If I haven't, if it should have given you a notification when you logged on. Again, it's, for me to have later, for me to go back and reference if need be. If the people that need to see it don't get to see it as we do it. But basically what we're going to do is just do an overview of the film and kind of where I'm at right now, its origins, where we stand, and where we're headed with it. For those of you that don't know, anybody else on here, I think you guys all know me, but just in case, my name is Mel House and I am a writer-director. I've been doing this for about, oh man, it's been like 25 years at this point. I have made the In-Betweening will be my sixth feature. My fifth one came out last year, and it is headed for distribution. It's called Mystery Spot. It's headed for distribution this fall. But In-Betweening is probably the most personal thing that I've done thus far, because it really is, while there is a lot of me in all of the movies, sometimes transparently so, this one is the most transparent, to where there's almost no there's almost no line at all. Although we'll get into this later, but while there's definitely a one-to-one relationship with a lot of the things in the movie, things are mixed up a little bit. So just to make things flow better. But it is directly based on a lot of the stuff that I've been dealing with for the last 25 years or so of making movies, trying to make movies, working on other people's movies, and just like the weird sort of things that get thrown at me, the weird gatekeeping that I've encountered, both within genres that I'm trying to work in, or, within groups of people that I'm trying to get involved with movies or help me make movies or things like that. It's just a lot. There was a moment probably 10 years ago where I was like, I really did have, I was like, man, you can't write this stuff. I need to start writing this down, because truth really is stranger than fiction. Some of the conversations that I would have with people. So that sort of started turning into what at the time was called 30 to 45, because I was working at a pizza place and delivering pizzas while trying to make movies, while trying to juggle 3 other jobs. And I was but the weird sort of dichotomy of going off to work on a film for, 3 weeks and then coming back to this gig, and people would ask me where I'd been, and I'd say, well, I was going to work on I went and worked on a movie for 3 weeks. And they go, oh, worked on a movie? Then why are you here? Like, aren't you rich? Shouldn't you live in Hollywood? Because that's what most people think. That's the idea that they have in their head. And there are tons more stories like that, some of which are in the actual movie, and some of which I just couldn't find a place for in the movie. But that's kind of what I really, when I applied for the grant, one of the things that I really focused on was how this aspect of the creative process you don't really hear a lot about. It's either, especially with filmmaking, you either see the glamorous side, especially in an age of social media, where you just get the red carpets and the premieres and the parties and people showing off their Blu-ray boxes or whatever, or you get this super tragic, story where it just totally just destroys their life kind of thing. But just usually the truth is somewhere like down the middle, right? In between, right? So I figured that this would be a good opportunity to tell a side of it that a lot of people really haven't experienced or seen, because I was living it for a very long time. And again, like, these are the script, the moments in the script, I kind of are a mishmash of like me sort of the things that I had to deal with in college, and the weird sort of cliquey stuff that I was dealing with when I was back trying to be a filmmaker, then merged with me being a new father and like having to work menial jobs, but also still trying to be a filmmaker. And then like stuff that's as recent as the last movie I worked on, but I tried to like kind of Play-Doh combine it all, and mash it up and make it interesting, because the truth of it is, there were a lot of those large stretches that would not really lend themselves to, some sort of entertainment, because they're just like, it's kind of just the boring day to day. Okay, well, I've got to do X, Y, Z again, and maybe something will happen. Maybe something will happen. There were long stretches that went by like that, where I was trying to get things going. In fact, INBETWEENING, as I said, started life probably a decade or more ago as a different script. And I tried to sort of pull the trigger then, but I just couldn't find people that were into it, of course, because it's a very personal story and it's a very niche story. And there's a lot of racial elements to it that a lot of people don't either understand or vibe with. So, it's not exactly the most commercial, pitch to someone that wants to fund a movie. But in trying to do, I tried to grow the crowdfunding route back then, and had a bunch of people around me that seemed to assure me that things might go well, and I had a lot of friends that were very successful at it at the time. And we did a crowdfunding campaign. I say we, it was me. I did a crowdfunding campaign back then and just fell squarely on my face. Like, just it pretty much failed. I mean, miserably. Like, we got a few donations, but there was no way we were going to make a movie out of it. And the way that I felt after that failed attempt led to me writing a script called Mystery Spot, just out of rage, just trying to get it all out of me. And I wrote Mystery Spot, and that was the movie that I ended up making first. But in a weird way, it's a mirror image of the stuff that I was dealing with in INBETWEENING, because I hadn't really gotten it out or dealt with it yet. So, but it's more of a grown up. It's like where I always make the Stephen King comparison. It's like if Mystery Spot is desperation, then INBETWEENING is definitely The Regulators. Like, there's a lot of crossover and similarities, but one is much more of a crazy sort of comedic, darkly funny approach, everything gallows humor almost. Whereas the other one is more just like serious and contemplative take on the things. But it's interesting that those movies have had kind of this weird symbiotic relationship, because I hadn't really intended that. One kind of birthed the other in a weird way. But now they're sort of like locked in this sort of creative death roll, because like I said, I just finished Mystery Spot, and that immediately led to making INBETWEENING and getting that going. But it was helpful, because once I applied for this grant, which I have to say that INBETWEENING was made possible by a grant through the city of Houston via the mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs. And the grant came through the Houston Arts Alliance. And I think, I can't remember who gave me the heads up on applying for it, but I'm the kind of guy that, like I said, we did a crowdfunding campaign and tried to get the movie going, years ago, and it just didn't take off. So, and I've tried things like that in the past, or applying for grants or whatever, and it's just never worked for me. But this time, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I just made Mystery Spot and it was starting to make waves around that time. This time, I obviously was successful. And thankfully, the Houston Arts Alliance saw fit to award me with a grant. And that is really what got us going. And that enabled us to shoot. I kind of laid the groundwork, for a while to try to be able to pull the trigger when we were ready. But there was no way I could have done it without getting that grant. So as soon as they notified me about that, I think it was on my birthday, actually, on December 27th. And we knew that it was coming. So I started immediately making plans to shoot, and we completed principal photography this past March. We did it around spring break. I think we started on the 10th of March and shot through the 26th, if I'm not mistaken. And so what remains now, so all the principal's done. I've been editing that. INBETWEENING is a hybrid. It takes a hybridized approach to like the storytelling, where there's a lot of live action, but there's a lot of animation too, which was intended from the beginning. I think early on when I wrote the script, I think it was an issue of, I was just sort of thinking about how some of these things would not be able to be pulled off on a super shoestring budget, which I knew that we were kind of working with. So that's when I really started to think about animation. I remember at the time, the movie was called 30 to 45 still. So I started thinking about animation and whether or not that would work. And then also concurrently, I was working myself to the bone, and my body was so destroyed that I wouldn't say pass out, but I definitely like micro napped a lot and like started to see weird things when I was out working. And so immediately thought, okay, well, what if this is what the character sees? So that's kind of what led me to thinking along those lines. And then eventually it led me down to the in-betweening title, because for those that don't know, in-betweeners are what they call the people on animation, on working on an animated movie or project, that sort of, like, the main animators will fill in, you know, let's say frame 1 and frame 10, and then the in-betweeners come in and do frame 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So it's so they're sort of filling in the middle. So I was like, oh, that works perfectly, because that refers to the animation. It also refers to, like, where I'm kind of caught in between all these weird groups that won't quite let me in, you know, be it, you know, filmmaking, or, you know, certain investors or things like that, or even the movies I make trying to get certain places. And then also, you know, refers to me myself, because I'm, you know, I'm white. My mom is white. My dad is black. I feel like I'm constantly caught in between, like, you know, these two racial identities. And a lot of the conversations I've had about, you know, some of the other movies I've tried to get going were firmly based in that. Like, you know, we don't want a black character in this, or you're too white to do this, or, you know, kind of thing. So that, when I really had that moment of, oh, in between, like when in-betweening hit me like a lightning bolt, that's when it sort of all really coalesced and came together. And again, this was a while before the movie proper got going, but for a long while, when I was really putting it together, it was a lot of just me just throwing stuff at the wall to see what would stick, and keeping track of stuff that I'm like, oh, I got to tell that story later. But it didn't really have cohesion until I stumbled on the in-betweening thing. I mentioned we were doing a lot of the animation. We're doing a lot of animation, and the person that I have helping me do a lot of that is Nick Butler. He's on the Zoom. You don't have to talk or anything, Nick, but I just wanted to shout you out, because he and I vibed on this a while ago, and I was really skeptical about really pulling the trigger on this until Nick. We had a long talk about it, and, you know, there's a lot of commonality, and, you know, how we've sort of approached things. I really like the work that he does. So he's, you know, he gave me a lot of faith, whether he knows it or not. Wasn't speaking to you. He gave me a lot of faith in continuing forward with the project. And then when he started sending me, we'll show a little bit later, but when he started sending me, like, your rough, you know, and everything, that's really when I was like, oh yeah, okay, this can work. And that actually enabled me to open up how I thought about some of the scenes and feel more comfortable with some of the transition-y stuff and what we can get away with, like him falling through the air and all that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I just wanted to shout you out, Nick. Let's see, where am I? Oh, yes. So what I want to do now is I'm going to show you a quick clip, one of the clips that we're going to show. And this one is, a lot of people have already seen this one because we released it as part of the Indiegogo. We're kind of showing off just like the vibe and the tone, and, you know, what we're kind of going for. And it does involve some of Nick's animation. It does involve some amazing voice acting from yours truly. So don't laugh at that, or laugh, you know, if it calls for it. But basically what this came from, this scene is it's pretty close to like real life. So what I was doing when I was sort of juggling all these jobs, I was delivering pizzas. I was working as a standardized patient at a medical school, which a lot of people don't even know that job exists. But what you do is you go in and you sort of play sick for the medical students. So they come in and they learn to basically take blood pressure the correct way, listen for, you know, figure out vitals. They learn how to palpate for your liver, things like that. Nothing major. They're really not supposed to do any invasive exams, although that did, sometimes they screw up. But it was just part of one of the many gigs I was juggling at the time. So I would go from like the pizza's place to the medical center here in Houston. And then during the summers and sometimes during the winters, another thing that would enter the rotation would be I would teach video camps, kids video camps, usually like 12 to 17-year-old. And I would show them, we did a lot of stop motion animation, a lot of just basic storytelling, and things like that. Just the basic ideas of, you know, or the basic language of cinema kind of stuff. And it was something I really enjoyed, but sometimes the lines would blur in a weird way. Like I'd just be so wiped out. And I remember the moment that I think really sort of that sticks out from that period to me. It's actually not the story, but I taught this summer video camp. And there's a line like this in the movie, but I taught the summer video camp that took place at an elementary school. And basically what would happen was it was done in conjunction with I think it's writers in the schools. And they would have the kids write short fiction, and then I would help them take their short fiction and turn it into a stop motion animation. Right. So and I mean, this was I think it was 2 or 3 weeks of, 5 days. So it was a great gig, but I was with those kids for a while. So we really bonded. And by the end of it, they were like, "Oh man, Mel is my hero, dude. I want to be like a director. I want to be a famous director, just like you." Mind you, like I'm leaving this camp and going to go deliver pizzas or lay on an exam table for several hours. So it wasn't exactly what they thought it was, but they knew some of them. This was after my fourth feature had come out, which Lionsgate had released. So it was easy to find. So they kind of researched and they found it. And to them, I was like the real deal. Right. So they really thought it was cool to have met a real director. Like they all got my autograph at the end. A lot of it's actually this slate that I have on the wall back here. That's that camp. They all signed the slate for me. But I remember very clearly, like the camp ended maybe 2 weeks later. I was working at the pizza restaurant, and by this point I had failed upward into management. So I was running the pizza restaurant, and 2 of the kids from that camp came in and saw me immediately. And it was a crazy weekend night. Everything was running late. The restaurant was a real mess. So, even beyond the fact that they saw me working a restaurant job, it was not we weren't putting our best foot forward, so to speak. So the look on I will never forget how the look on their faces fell, and they saw, their hero, just doing a workaday job. And that really stuck with me. And again, I'm not trying to denigrate or berate like those gigs. I had to do them because I had to, make ends meet. But, people, again, they get it twisted in their head. They think movies equals rich and, that kind of thing, to the point, and not just people on the outside. You kind of, when you're trying to get work, you can't let people on the inside, in the industry, so to speak, know that. Sorry, my computer shut down here, and I'll get to my notes on it. You can't let people in the industry know that you're like a normal Joe, because they, for whatever, even though they're all kind of doing the same thing, or at least a great deal of them, it just gets weird. So this is a scene, just it's not really about that particular exchange, but it definitely, I feel like it really encapsulates like the vibe of the movie, and the what we're kind of trying to go for with the animated cutaways and things like that. So this one is called "We Can't Talk About Butts." Stand by, guys. Sorry if you guys have been in the waiting room for a minute. I don't know. It's just notifying me about a bunch of stuff. So, all right, here we go. Where you at? There we go. About to play a clip. Again, this one is called "Can't Talk About Butts." Give me a second for it to. There we go. All right.
Hey Mel, we're not getting the audio.
You say you didn't know, you didn't get the audio on that?
Yeah, the audio didn't come across.
Well, that's unfortunate. All right, let me see here. Oh, I thought I did here. I thought I did. Sorry, guys. I do movies, not Zoom. We'll get it. Aha. Yeah, I had that selected. What happened? All right. Ah, okay. It deselected on me. Sorry, guys. Do you mind if we play it again? Sorry. I'm new at this. All right, here we go. Round 2. Can't talk about butts. Thanks for your patience, everyone. That's not wanting to show up at all. Nope. All right, I'm going to cheat. Ah, there we go. Sorry, of course, now I've been doing this all day, and of course, now is when my computer decides to be difficult. Okay, here we go.
Do any of you guys know what a standardized patient is?
No.
What's that?
I think there was a Seinfeld episode about it.
What's Seinfeld?
I think it's a sitcom from the 90s. Multicamera.
What?
I know, right? I mean, if you can't get your story in one lens, then GTFO.
Look, I'm just saying that's a story that I might relate to you guys via animation.
I forgot to mention, since this is a simulation, you didn't need to do that. Is he still asleep?
I thought he was just a really good actor.
Gross, bro.
Yeah, I don't think you can talk about your butt, because we're kids.
Yeah.
Good point.
Don't mind the shilling. The Indiegogo's over. Okay, did you guys hear it that time? Okay, I got the LOL, so that seems to have worked. And again, as we show off these clips, keep in mind that this is sort of a pre-production sneak peek. The movie still does have its pants down, so to speak. So color correction hasn't been done. I've done a little bit just to make it a little more watchable. Same with sound design. I try to cut it to where it's listenable, but there's sound engineering is still yet to come. You should be, Julie. It's hilarious. Sound engineering is still yet to come. Nick Butler, if I'm not mistaken, there's still, that's not exactly the final pass, the animation. I think you said you're still going to do some more work on it. I think it's funny as it is. But I love how you made the guy look like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo when I did that stupid voice just to sound different. I love
Totally
it.
the inspiration.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of collaboration I'm looking for. So anyway, so that's the clip that we kind of shared during the campaign, and again, it was intentional so that people could see kind of how we're going to do the animation in and out stuff. Although it's not always like that. Like there are a lot of instances where our lead character it's very Nightmare on Elm Street-y, of course, because that's my jam, but like where he's in a situation, you don't realize that he's passed out, and it kind of goes into an animation kind of thing, or just a weird heightened reality thing. In a lot of those instances, he's got two sort of think of it as the angel and devil on your shoulder, or like maybe your spirit animal that's supposed to help you out, and also like the negative voices that you always hear in your head. And our lead character's version of his negative voice is a zombie. It's a zombie guy, because so much of my angst and pathos is like tied up in like just trying to make my way through this horror movie world. And what's the most popular horror movie trope, of the last probably 15, years or whatever? It's zombies, right? So Ty Blue plays zombie guy. And you'll see him in a clip. It'll be the last clip I think that we play, but you'll see what I mean. It's awesome. And then the spirit animal in the film is Angelo Moore from Fishbone. And if you're not familiar with Fishbone, they're an alternative punk, funk, rock, metal, ska, jazz band that's been around since 1979. But they came up in the same scene as the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jane's Addiction. No Doubt used to open shows for them. They were like a seminal Los Angeles rock band. They were on, Lollapalooza. They were poised to be the biggest band in the world at one time, but for whatever reason, I don't want to say for whatever reason, there are a lot of reasons. There's a whole documentary about it, but they just could not make it. Where they had everything going for them. I mean, there was a time where I would read every magazine I would read when I was a kid, whatever band it was, they would mention Fishbone, or they'd be wearing the shirt with the bone, or there's this picture of David Bowie wearing one of their baseball caps because he was a huge Fishbone fan. So it's like you would constantly hear about this band, and you'd wonder like, why did they never break completely through? Like, what was the problem? And at a certain point, that really resonated with me, aside from the fact that these are black dudes playing what's thought of as white music, so they're like my mulattoized experience, like made flesh almost, right? So I've been a huge fan of theirs for a good portion of my life. And at a certain point, when I would start to deal with my own sort of creative personal demons like that, I would think of, like, what would Fishbone do? Like, what did this happen to them? How did they handle this? Man, I wonder what Angelo Moore would have to say about this. And so that when I started thinking about this script, I'm like, well, the angel on his shoulder, his spirit animal, has to be Angelo. And if you don't know who Angelo Moore is, I should have pulled up some YouTube videos or whatever of him, but highly recommend going to check, because I mean, he is notably considered to be one of the best frontmen in rock. Yeah, WWFD. I should make t-shirts. And it's I mean, explosive, to watch them perform, even, to this day, and again, like watching, it's almost like a religious experience to watch them play a show. So I knew that would translate. I mean, he's a character, right? Because that's just part of who he is. He's played with everybody from, the Chili Peppers to Prince to, Justin Timberlake, he is well respected. And a lot of it is just, he's just one of those people that's almost otherworldly, like, almost alien in a sense. So I knew that all that would translate if he was down to do it. Right. So, and I approached him about this project. It was a while ago, probably around when I first started writing the script, and he was pretty much down from the start. And we had worked together a little bit. A documentary that I shot several years ago was all about black rock bands. So we spent about a day, maybe 2 days with Angelo, and getting shooting interviews and stuff. So we were familiar. And then once I started really explaining to him what the impetus of the story was, and how there were parallels of, with what they had gone through and, what I had gone through. Here is, let's see. Are you guys seeing that Fishbone photo? Yeah. So that's Angelo right there. This is their DVD, probably their most popular album, I guess. This is the one that came out, and this is the one that everybody thought, you know, was going to put them on the map, so to speak. But yeah, once I started talking to him about that and getting him on the page of, you know, like the struggles that Eric, our lead character, is going through, played by Brandon Cole. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet. You saw him in the last clip. Angelo really got it, like from the jump, you know, and so he was down, and then he was amazing on screen. He just needed to be Angelo, you know, and that's exactly what he did. And it worked so well. And the strangest experience was once it was weird because he was nervous. When I say this guy's one of my heroes, like, that's not hyperbole. He really is one of my heroes. But the dynamic quickly became on set, like he was nervous to be on my set because he was worried about screwing up or just remembering stuff, you know, because he's a performer, not a actor. But I just had to explain to him, hey man, these are all things I tried to write in your voice. You're playing yourself. Just, you know, do what Angelo do. And then once we hit a rhythm, and then it turned out great. So this next scene that I'm actually that I'm gonna cue up, it's actually the first time that we see Angelo in the movie in his in his role as Angel on Eric's shoulder, so to speak. But this is and it's again very much based on a meeting that I really had. Let me get it going here and then I'll finish talking. Okay, so it's very much based on a meeting I had with these people that were interested in, at the time we were doing a TV show, a comedic TV show. And these guys are very interested in picking it up and they actually own some TV stations. They were interested in syndicating it for us. But I quickly realized that things are, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And it was, and I wish that I had my own Angelo in the moment to have helped guide me through that situation. Now this scene, in addition to the things I mentioned earlier, like no color, not final color correction or sound, there are a few visual effects or tweaks that are missing. There's a moment where we see a video on the TV, and the idea, and this is real, the idea is Eric goes into this meeting and they're kind of high roading him and saying, like, we're trying to send a positive message to our people, but the whole time there's a booty shaking rap video behind them, which again, no problem with booty shaking videos, but don't try to high road me if you're running that on a loop, you know what I mean? But that was real. It was real. And that really happened. And so that's not there yet because we're not actually shooting the video. I actually have a friend that I've helped shoot those videos, and he's got to get me one. So I've got to drop that in. But also there's a moment, and you'll see, I think it calls it out. I think I have text there where Angelo throws his saxophone at the people that are offering the raw deal. And it's going to be a visual effect because we didn't really want him to throw his sax, nor do we want to get another sax and throw it and put a hole in the wall. So that's yet to come, but you'll get the idea of what's supposed to happen. So this one, I don't have a funny title for this one. It's just called scene 16 through 18, but we'll call it the meeting at channel 19. All right, here we go. It looks like sound is enabled, so we should be good to go. Now this scene's I think it's about 9 minutes long, so settle in. Get ready for some comedy. And
did I just
Yes, you did, brother. Is he black enough to say that?
We get it. Still rolling.
Do you need a moment, brother?
No. I just I have a.
I'm sold. This dude crazy. That's just what we need up in here. Some stream of consciousness, Boonwell shit.
It's Boonwell. Rein it in a little bit, Swerve. Okay?
Swerve.
He's my cousin, my play cousin. But back to the discussion at hand, Brother Eric. Listen, we like your material, but we have a few inquiries, Brother Rashid.
Thank you, Brother Malik. Now, Brother Eric, we're definitely interested in considering leveraging a partnership with you. We feel like your work is just the type of thing we need to inject some life into our network. That being said,
where all the black people at?
Excuse me?
Don't worry. I got your back, Eric.
Angelo, what are you doing here?
Man, let's just say I'm your backup. Or your black up. Hey.
See? This dude crazy. Straight up Twin Peaking up in here.
So you guys aren't seeing. Or hearing this man.
No, brother. And who is it you're seeing exactly?
Apparently the lead singer of my favorite band.
Man, text me the number of your dealer.
Calm down, Swerve. Back to what you were saying a moment ago, Brother Rashid.
Brother Eric, now, the quality of your work is good, and we definitely love this sitcom pitch, but we're just concerned that it might not send the right message.
What message exactly?
Yeah. What message?
Empowerment, for one.
I mean, most of the cast you've attached, they're all white.
No, there's 4 white people, 2 black guys, an Asian guy, and 2 gay.
Let me stop you right there, brother. I just want you to understand what we are trying to do here.
We're trying to send a positive message to our people.
Yeah, right.
Positive message. Yeah, right. You think all that ass is gonna keep the kids off the street?
With all due respect, this is ridiculous. I mean, I'm half black.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work on that too.
Oh, I got that, Lester.
Malik. It's Malik. If I'm gonna call you Curve or Speed Bump or whatever, then you can call me Malik. And you don't got that. You barely got yourself.
What do you mean work on it? Like, what is there to work on?
You see, our demographic is black. And well, truth be told, you're just blackish.
Nope. Can't say that, my brother.
I forgot. My mistake. Eric, you're just sort of black. Diet black. Is that better?
Man, that's fucked up right there.
We can use it. Work with it. We'll spin it, you know?
You're our invasive exotic, son.
You need to tell these guys to suck it, man. That's some bullshit right there.
I agree.
Who are you talking to, my brother?
Who indeed? This some next level Lotka shit up in here. Y'all remember Lotka from that TV show with Knickie and the Penguin?
Look, brothers, no disrespect, but I think I should take my project and go a different way with it.
Now, hold on, my brother. Work with us on this, and we can definitely get you paid.
Hold on, man. Just pause. Pause for information.
Oh, yeah?
Definitely.
Get you that paper, son.
Is this fucking guy for real over here, man?
Am I out of it again?
Well, 70-30. I mean, I'm here, but you're here mostly, though.
What?
What are you talking about, brother?
Young zombie guy. Nothing. Proceed.
What I was saying is we can definitely find some money in this for you.
And what are the terms?
Well, for this season, we're thinking we can get a pretty sizable advance via syndication. Now, based on what you've shown us thus far, we're thinking we can get $50,000 up front.
Whoa.
To be split between us.
Okay, so...
And then after, we're thinking we can offer you roughly $3,000.
What about my crew?
3,000 as well.
Man, let me throw this at him, man.
Hold on. So what you're saying is 6,000 total for everything, and then you guys split 50,000.
No, you misunderstand.
Okay, I was hoping so.
It's 3,000 total for you and them.
I wish that were real.
Yeah, I wish my aim was a lot better, probably, too.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. I just get a little emotional, you know.
Where do you go, Eric? Take me there.
What do you think about all of this, brother?
I think I'm gonna take my project. Thanks, Swerve. And I'll see myself to the door.
Good call, Eric. Good call. Damn, this booty video was still on?
Now, hold on, my brother. We just want to make sure that you realize what we are trying to do here.
Well, I think I understand what you're trying to do already. No, thank you.
So you'd rather deliver pizzas the rest of your life?
At least they don't pay me slave wages, brothers.
Damn, it's like they got the same butt on a loop.
Oh, snap!
Shut up, Clarence.
There we go. Oh, snap, indeed. So, yeah, that was, like I said, that was mostly a true story. The only thing I think, I've changed a few things, but the numbers that I was offered were even more ridiculous. Like, I think it was something wild, like $100,000 and maybe like $1,000 for me or something like that. That's the thing with a lot of this stuff is if I had told the real story, people wouldn't believe me. They would think I was making it up. But and again, that whole day was crazy because it was just insane having Angelo there and, saying these words that I've heard him say in my head many times. But I think it's important because I know he's had a lot. I know he himself has had a lot of those similar encounters, where people that are supposed to have your back for whatever reason, be it they're part of your crew or, your friends, or, maybe even it's a racial thing. Like, we got to stick together. But then they ultimately a lot of people really are only out for themselves, and that's what I really wanted to get across, because it's back to the in-between thing. Like, there was nowhere for me to kind of go and I felt torn in between all these different places that were all kind of bouncing me around like stoppers in a pinball machine, you know. And it was the same sort of story, the same kind of gatekeeping or cliquishness, or just straight up thievery, you know, in a lot of cases. And I really wanted to make a point to what I really wanted to try to do with this movie. And again, there's only so many stories I can fit into 90 minutes or whatever, but I really wanted to try to make a point to be even handed and show like, oh, you know, I've caught shit from all of these people. It's not just oh, you know, the white man's keeping me down thing, or, oh, like black people won't accept me or anything like that. Or, you know, the horror crowd doesn't love me, because it's not true, because a lot of them do. And a lot of them are like ride or die, you know, but it's that it's come from all sides. And that was the most frustrating part, you know, because of trying to sort of find a tribe. And only recently do I think that I've settled into one, you know. But it was a long and arduous journey. So that there is the flip side of that, I have another clip. The flip side of that, of course, at least in this script, there's a similar sort of encounter, but it's like a horror podcast. And again, this is representative of several different things that I've experienced, you know, going through that world, making my way through that world. But again, most of these things like were real things that I've experienced or were said to me, or, you know, and it's the kind of thing that I'm like, that needs to be immortalized somehow, because I cannot believe these words actually came out of your mouth. And again, this scene in particular, I think, is a good showcase for the character of Zombie Guy. Although this is a little bit later in the film, you've met him a few times by this point, but he definitely is Angelo's sort of opposite number, where Angelo is trying to, like, you know, kind of be Eric's hype man and get him to do the right thing and make the right choices. Zombie Guy is just undermining him and, you know, kneecapping him wherever he can. I'm going to read your. Sorry. Oh, there's a lot of messages here that I missed. Okay. Oh, thank you, Nick. Yeah, Angelo, Caitlin. Yeah, Angelo's awesome. You wait till you see some of the other stuff. Sean, a zombie is a negative spirit, gives me big American Werewolf. Yeah, totally. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, okay, well, people are going to think of American Werewolf in London, which is fine with me, because that whole idea is genius, you know, and it works so well within the context of that movie. So even, and I didn't realize until later that I was like, oh, that must have been the whole Griffin Dunn thing must have been where I was coming from with this. But that is one of my favorite movies, again, because it's like this weird, being a kid of the 80s, a lot of my favorite movies are these weird, I don't want to say genre bending, but tone bending things where they effortlessly flow in and out of these different, it's like comedy, horror, drama kind of stuff, where it's not as clearly delineated as maybe things that, you know, come out now. But another movie that I always think of like that would, oddly enough, would be Beverly Hills Cop. Like everybody everybody, when they think of that movie, they think it's a laugh a minute riot, but it's not really. It's that there's comedy there for sure, but it grows out of the situations, and there are real stakes. Like that whole beginning where Mikey Tandino gets killed and everything. It's like a serious cop thing, and you know, again, that's kind of, I think I unconsciously pull from those wells, because that's the stuff that really resonated with me as a kid. Those things that kind of keep their feet in a lot of different tones. Okay, so here we go. This one, let me go ahead and pull this up. This is the meeting with it's the Spookynauts podcast. Initially, the title of the podcast was called the Boo Crew Podcast, because I was just trying to think of something that a horror podcast would name themselves, but there are so many. Of course, Boo Crew was taken. So I was like, okay, well, let me try to think of another one. And I think I might have been down by NASA, and I was like, oh, Spookynauts, like astronauts of the spooky. That's perfect. So I invite you to join me in meeting the fine folks at the Spookynauts podcast. One second, let me get it all set up here. All right. Here we go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome once again to another edition of the Spookynauts podcast, bringing you the latest, the greatest, the biggest, the baddest, and the best in modern horror fandom. I am your host, Creepy Charlie, being joined in the studio, as always, by my cadaverous co-conspirators. First of all, Deadly Daniel Darkside.
Dr. Deadly Daniel Darkside. You know,
Deadly.
I would drink this blood, but that just seems shallow and pedantic, so...
What's that all about?
I gotta maintain my street cred while also maintaining my detached pseudo-intellectual. So.
Are you a real doctor?
I have my PhD in spookology, so yes.
Moving right along, also joining us in the studio, as always, the maiden of the macabre, the priestess of pulchritude, the queen of screams, Rotten Annie, the physical manifestation and avatar of death and dismemberment.
Hail Satan.
Our guest tonight, Eric Linson, director of the independent films Murder Mind and Tend to Kill.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And joining you is...
No, he's just along for the ride. I didn't have time to stop him.
Excuse me. Actually, hi. My name is Zombie Guy, and actually, I am a bit of a writer / producer myself.
Huh.
Yep, some might even call me an auteur.
What have you ever written or produced?
Easy Turbo. Please do not forget that pre-death, I worked as a casting assistant for almost 8 months. All right. And even though I may be a member of the living impaired community, I still understand how this shit works.
If I may interject, my pustulant friend, you strike me as someone who does know how this shit works. And Winston, you may want to make a note of this. He's also testament to overcoming adversity in the workplace as well, man.
Yeah, and also this casting department that you worked at. Is it at all reminiscent of some obscure film I can name drop?
Obscurity is the coolest.
What are you working on now?
Oh, sure. Well, I have an idea that I've been tinkering around with, and I really just feel like it's going to be the next insert super popular horror film here.
Who?
Sounds like a real Fulci-esque throwback.
Big ambitions?
What's it called?
Right. So I don't really have a title yet. I actually haven't written anything. But I did bring along today this sexy lookbook for you guys to look at.
Oh! Don't look now, kids, but my undead friend here is a bit of a player.
Oh, stop.
A player? Are you for real?
Hey.
He's here by accident.
Don't hate the player, hate the game, boo.
Hashtag hate the game.
No, seriously, you wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for me.
All right, look. Before this goes any further, I mean, like, I don't know what's going on between the two of you here, and in all honesty, it's of no consequence to me. I've just got tremendous respect for the body of work that both of you have accomplished.
Thank you so much.
The work. You just met this guy 3 minutes ago. How can you really like him? And what work?
I'm so sorry. Excuse me. Can you please not talk to my connects like this? You're completely exploiting them right now.
Let's not forget that you came here with me for an interview about my work.
Your work. His work. He wants to talk about his work. Okay, great. Let's do that. Your films are shit. Okay? Let's be honest. The only reason you even got distribution on your last movie was because your lead actress was in that other movie. Your actors are terrible, and your writing is trite.
Trite, yeah. This is coming from a zombie guy.
And?
Yeah, but Zombie Guy actually has a point here. I was going to bring it up later in the program, but kind of happy that it emerged organically because now I feel like it's out there on the table. We got to open an honest dialogue.
Thank you.
Really?
So you're saying your films are infallible, that's what you believe?
No.
Fucking guy. Can you still see my pertinence hats?
Every last one of them, bro.
No. That's not what I believe, but
any defense that I give you now, you guys are going to think that that's what it is because you guys already have your mind made up about it. That, and obviously I'm not one of the cool guys. I don't wear the fucking costume.
What costume?
You know, maybe we could bring in our special guest and she could help shed some light on this situation because she's got some insider knowledge.
Great. Who's this going to be?
The Spookynauts podcast. That was actually one of my favorite things to shoot and write. Again, because a lot of that stuff, as I said, was legitimately, like, it's almost quoted directly from stuff that I've been involved with or people that I've had to deal with. And, it becomes very frustrating because it's, there is that level of gatekeeping and weird cliquishness. And so I'm exercising all those demons, all of them. And I love Ty in that. I love what he does with the character. I wrote the character of Zombie Guy for him, with him in mind, hoping that he would say yes. So he did, thankfully. And I also wrote it with him in mind because he's a musical theater actor, a very, very accomplished one. He just opened a show called Titanic in New York. And it is a musical version of Titanic, but with more Celine Dion songs, hence the Titanic. So it looks pretty fantastic, and they're getting pretty good reviews. So go check that out. Ty's he's been working on that for almost as long as I've been working on INBETWEENING, I think. But with that said, we do have, I'll hold on that. We'll wait on that. But let me just let everybody know the sort of the state of the union. So you've seen some of the clips that I've edited so far. There are a couple of parts of the movie that we still have yet to shoot. Those are mainly there's a scene with puppets. It's another thing where Eric passes out and wakes up and everybody's puppets. The puppets are being fabricated right now. And they are, the person doing them does a great job at, like, not photorealistic, but puppets that, are likeness puppets that look like the person is supposed to look like. So I cannot wait to do that scene. We've recorded the audio for it already. So I think it's going to be me and my very, very small crew of 3 people, myself included, doing all the puppetry and whatnot when the time comes. We've got a couple of transitional things that I need to shoot now that I know how things are going to sort of fit together within the film. And then there is, as I hinted at earlier, there's a musical sequence. There's a musical number that we are going to be doing because half of the cast are musical theater actors. And when I was working on this and when I was working on the initial script, I dreamt this whole sequence in musical form. So I woke up and I was like, okay, I have to do that. And it really is, it's more of the same. It's not your upbeat kind of what you would think of when you think musical. It starts out that way, but then it quickly becomes this angry sort of punk rock, people just lashing out at the lead character kind of thing, while he's trying to focus on what he's doing and continue editing. So we have that to shoot. We've got a choreographer lined up and everything, so it should be great. That's forthcoming probably in the fall. Probably do the puppet stuff around then. There's another larger scene that we need to do with Michelle, which is, you haven't seen her yet. It's Eric's girlfriend, or recent ex-girlfriend. And when I went through the script the first time, I realized that that character was in there. Again, it's based on people that have been in my life, but the way it read on paper was that she just was like a plot device harpy. You shouldn't live your, you know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't live your dreams, just basically there to tell him no. And I didn't want it to be like that. I don't know. It just made me feel gross because everybody's kind of, not only am I just leaning into like poor pitiful me stuff, I guess I didn't want to make it seem like he's just a victim all the time, but everybody's kind of the star of their own story in a way. We're just looking at Eric's because that's what I know, right? But I didn't want to like make it seem cartoonish, I guess. I know it's funny because we have animation, but you know what I'm saying, like where she's really there just to be an antagonist or a thorn in his side. So there's a whole scene that we have yet to shoot where Michelle kind of has she has her mini in-betweening moment where she pulls focus and the movie's kind of about her for a little bit. But it involves the puppets and it involves some musical stuff. So we still have to shoot that. That's with Chelsea, our actress, Chelsea Sarrett. Since I mentioned the animation, I realized I hadn't really shown Nick's character models for our characters. So that's not it. There they go. Let's see if I can share that. Fortunately, we don't need audio for this, so hopefully won't screw it up. So these are the character models for people that will be animated. There's Zombie Guy, of course. And then we have Martin, who you haven't seen any of the clips yet, but this guy also manifests. He's to the right of Zombie Guy, second from the right. Martin manifests in Eric's head as well because he's echoes of Eric's college roommate. So he kind of shows up and busts his chops a little bit too. Jill is a girl that Andy is a girl that Eric played by Jill Brumer, is a girl that Eric used to work with. And she's kind of like one of the only true friends that he has still. And she's in an engineer outfit because her day job now is driving a miniature train of kids. So that's kind of, and I don't know why that stuck with me. I think it's when I was working at the pizza place, I would go hang out in the mall and I would just see this train go by constantly. So it became like the source of comfort for me. So we have a miniature train in the movie now, but it also provides some thematic connective tissue when sort of things start happening later and there becomes a train of consequences. So, and then there's Angelo, of course, Eric, our lead actor, or our lead, Brandon Coley's got the pizza box. Then we have Debbie Rochon, who plays Liz Black, which is also kind of a weirdly, it's sort of a thinly veiled fictionalized version of Debbie herself. Then we have the Michelle character, and then we have Eric's producer, Richard, who is very frustrated with how much money he's put into Eric's movies and how little he's gotten back, which I understand, but there's only so much Eric can do. Substitute Eric for Mel in any of the previous sentences. You know what I mean? So it just becomes another constant source of stress for him. So all of these characters show up in the animated sequences at one time or another. And things get pretty weird. So as I mentioned, several of our actors are musical theater actors. And so we're going to play one more clip, and then I'll kick it to questions if anybody has anything or wants to add anything in. Several of our actors are musical theater actors, and I had that whole musical theater epiphany where I realized that I wanted to do, and I kind of just wanted to see if I could write a song like that. And so what I've got here, I've got the rough. Well, it's a final mix of the music, but the the vocals on it are still me doing a rough track for the people that are going to be singing on it, which is going to be Ty, Zombie Guy, Michelle, who you just saw the animated version of, and a couple of the other actors will be singing on this. So, and then Angelo has a whole verse that he does, and then there's going to be a saxophone solo that we're adding on. So we still have to do that. But I had to get everything recorded and set up first. That's kind of just now coming back to me. So I did a little lyric video for part of the song. So you kind of get the idea of what we're talking about and how it starts and what we're kind of aiming for. It kind of starts off like I was going for typical musical, but it turns out once I got it recorded, it came out of me sounding like the beginning of a gospel's church song. So the beginning is pretty gospel-y, which I think works. Again, in betweening, and then it kind of changes, it switches gears and gets loud. But again, don't think that the warbling you hear is going to be the final vocal track. It's really just theirs. Think of it as storyboards for music. It's storyboard for the music and for the lyrics and vocals. Just a guide track. So once I get them in and record everything, then we'll go shoot the musical number and do it to tape playback to this. And we'll get Angelo in there, get his sax thing. Another of my ulterior motives of doing all this is I wanted to write a song that Angelo sang and played on. Of course, why wouldn't I? So anybody gave at that level of the Indiegogo, remember that we're also doing a 7-inch release of this too. So should be pretty awesome. So this is the first. A couple of people have heard it, but it's the first anybody outside the inner circle has really heard of the song. And the song is called Shit Show, because if you haven't ever really heard that term, that's a term that gets bandied about a lot on movie sets if things are going real bad. Like they're like, someone will be like, oh man, all right, we're working on another shit show. Or if I was reaching out to find crew for something, they'll be like, well, what do you think? Is it going to be a shit show? So while I've heard it used to refer to other things, I've heard it the most used to refer to terrible movie productions. So that was the thing that just stuck in my head. And also, if I win the Oscar for Best Original Song, I can't wait till they have to say Best Original Song for Shit Show goes to Millhouse. So that would be amazing. So here we go. The song is called Shit Show, and it's the first half of it, I guess. Let me give a share on here. All right, here we go. Enjoy.
We're crewing up one more low-budget indie. My resume's in, and I hope that they pick me. There's some interest from networks and stars. There's line items for cocaine and bars. The script is solid and the lights are all green. It's flexibly funded if you know what I mean. What does she mean? Don't make a scene. That's how you know. That's how you know. Oh, that's how you know. That is how you know. You're on a shit show. Shit show. It's a shit show. You're on a shit show. And now you're cutting this scene with notes from producers who keep telling you you're a no-talent loser. How long can you strangle a dream before it dies? But you know it always helps to have fresh sets of eyes. May have started as your vision, but now it's one big circle jerk. Now hurry up and export this and get back to actual work. Make it more like Clerks. That's how you know.
There you go. Shit Show. World premiere. I keep telling everybody that I was, because when I was doing those vocals, I was really phoning it in because I was just like trying to lie down and guide. But I blew my voice out eventually because by the end of it, every time I was getting so mad about the stuff that I was singing, because it's all, again, shit that people have actually said to me, which we can unpack all those stories later at another time. But I couldn't separate myself from the experience. So I was like, I felt like I was at leading a Black Flag show or something. But it's fun. It's very cathartic. I can't wait to do it, to play back and do it. I can't wait to play it live, maybe at the release party. We'll see if we can make that happen. But yeah, there's a whole another verse after that. There's the Angelo part that comes and stuff. But yeah, we're gonna shoot that once we get everybody recorded. We're gonna shoot it, have some choreographed dances, people with pizza boxes spinning around, maybe people in standardized patient gowns, you know, the whole deal. It should be really fun. And I think that kind of leaves me. Yeah, it will be epic, Julie. I will make sure and let everybody know. That's why I wanted to shoot it kind of set it aside from what we've already done, because I just knew it would be, that's a thing I want to focus on unto itself, just to make it right. Like, I don't want to half-ass it, you know, especially once the song started coming together. And I got the drummer on that track is Kelly Scott from the band Failure, who he did this thing during pandemic where they were all, you know, nobody was able to tour, so they were all looking for work. So he's like, hey man, if you have a song, I'll put drums on it for, you know, very cheap. And I was like, dude, when else can I? So I jumped all over that, and that's kind of how it grew into, because the first version of the song, it was just me programming drums, you know, super simple. And so I was like, oh man, I can have real drums and recorded like real well, you know, everything else I could handle. But that was the element I was missing. And then once that came back, I'm like, okay, I got to hire an engineer. I want to make it sound right, you know, do it for real. And then take the same approach with the actual scene around it, you know, do it legit and spend the time that we need to spend with it. Also, that's why we kind of did the Indiegogo, because I want to have enough money to be able to do that. And I applied for another grant that I'm, fingers crossed, we'll hopefully hear about, you know, any day now, because as you know, the stuff is expensive to do, even at the indie level. But I want to do it. Like I said, the right way. Like, I want to get the guy that we used to do all of our sound to do the sound mix on this. I wanted the colorist that I always use to do the color. The guy that I use on Mystery Spot to do the score, and all that takes, you know, money. So that's another reason why I'm kind of putting a little break in there while we edit. I want to make sure Nick is paid for all the animation that he's doing, because it's a lot. I know it's a lot of work. So I just put a little break in there between principal and then like maybe pick up shoots and things like that as we raise a little more. Because this still, by the end of the day, even with all that done, we're still getting out for under $50,000, which is like not just low budget for Hollywood. That's like no budget. That's like catering services, you know, craft services budget. So it is still a very scrappy little indie film. I'm trying to rack my brain and see if there's anything I left out. There is not. I think that about covers it. Is anybody in attendance? Does anybody have any questions? Is there something I didn't mention that you'd like me to mention or talk about? I'm an open book. Most of you are, I think, involved with the movie, or maybe gave to the Indiegogo, so you might have been getting the updates as well. Let me look in the chat here. Yeah, you like the gospel intro? Good. Yeah, I can't squash my inherent blackness. It just came out that way. I'm glad you guys liked it. I can't wait to. Do I have a favorite scene? I do, and it is probably, at the moment, it's probably the Spookynauts thing I just showed, because that, just the way that came together, and like the experiences that I tied to that, hearing that and kind of getting back at them, you know, via art, that just it really puts a smile on my face. But also, I really love, like, a lot of this, you know, the lines were written a certain way. They were written for Ty, but he adds so much nuance as Zombie Guy that takes it. It's like, I didn't even know that I wanted you to do that, but please do that again. Please do. Like when he's like, hate the player, not the game, boo. You know, I didn't write boo. He added the boo, but the boo has to be there. You know, stuff like that. Just watching him. Yeah. Yeah. The boo's great. He has a few more moments like that. And again, just watching everybody kind of click in that scene, watching Brandon get, and I think he had been paying attention to me because the way he slowly gets more and more angry, I'm like, I think he's been studying the subject a little bit, but I just like how he modulates himself in that scene. That's why, but however, I have a feeling that once I get to, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a big scene at the end with Angelo where it's just Angelo and Eric. And it's a long monologue-y, heartfelt kind of thing. It was hard for me to get through, in a good way, hard for me to get through. Like I was getting choked up watching them do it. Just because I've lived with this shit in my head for so long. And then hearing Angelo say these lines and also do it and then turn to me and be like, man, I know just what you're talking about. Like, I feel you. We'll get through this. You know, that was a mind-blowing day when we did that scene in particular. So I think that one's really gonna hit pretty hard once I edit it. I have to admit I'm kind of avoiding it because I don't want to have an emotional breakdown in the edit suite. That happened to me during Mystery Spot with all the stuff with Reagan. Just because it's hard, kind of harder to watch. But yeah, I guess that means it's effective, right? Oh yeah. Beneath this tough exterior, there does lie a beating heart. Any other? Did they really say Diet Black? They did. They did say Diet Black. And yeah. I'm telling you, you can't make this shit up. And of course, the Blackish reference. It's at the time I wrote this. It might have even been longer than 10 years. I don't know how long Blackish has been a show, but it was before Blackish was a show. Because I think the tagline, I was like, oh, we can call it a Blackish comedy, right? That's perfect. But then the show Blackish came out and was a big thing. So that's why it's kind of like, nope, you can't say that. It's trademarked. And he kind of looks at the camera a little bit, Steven. So yeah, that's why they throw in those other things. But yeah, Diet Black was one of the, I can't remember. There was another moment that it was a pretty harrowing day. Yeah. And I've had a few experiences like that where I didn't pass the black test. And I'm like, I'm half black. Like, to anybody that cares about those kinds of things, I'm black. And I'm like, well, I'm just as mixed as Obama. He's your first black president. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a weird kind of thing to not be, there's that. And then like in high school, there were people that wouldn't let me in their house because I was black, white people. So it's like, well, where do I go? Do I just hang out with other mixed kids? I don't know, and beyond that, there are a couple elements like this in the other parts of the script the scenes that we haven't shown, but there are people that once they know that, producers that I've encountered, that once they know that, immediately they're like, oh, well, can you give us an urban script or something like that, or something like drug dealers and that stuff has happened to me for real a few times, and crazier, even more crazy things than that have happened. So it's a thing that, again, I had to pull back on because you wouldn't believe the truth. You wouldn't believe the truth. In the last 10 years or so, maybe 5 years, people have got a little more, I would say, careful with what they say. But I don't think, in a lot of cases, I don't think it's what's in their heart. I don't think the things in their heart have changed. I just think they're picking their words more selectively and finding other ways to put you in that box, let's say. Yeah, not the drug dealers. Yes. Yep, the drug dealer story. Was Swerve based on a real person? Yes, he was in that meeting. And actually, in the actual meeting, he was another black guy. And I wrote that character for my friend Jordan Coleman, who actually literally just on TV a few minutes ago. He's in a Dell commercial. But I wrote it for him because he's a very funny guy. And I wrote the lines with him in mind, like his delivery, kind of like I did with Zombie Guy for Ty. However, in the interim, Jordan has kind of blown up. He was on Snowfall for, I think, Up until recently, I think they just got his character's no longer there. I don't want to give anything away if you haven't watched the show yet. He was on Snowfall. He was on another big show that I'm forgetting. And then I see him in commercials all the time. So he has leveled up and gone union. And while he was definitely into doing the film, we had to do this non-union just because of the budget. And because of some issues I had with the actors union on Mystery Spot. So they have all been cleared up, but it's just like the infrastructure of this movie could not support it if we had to get in some sort of protracted battle. So I was trying to think of who else might be good as Swerve, and my friend Derek, who is I actually met him at jiu-jitsu. He was one of my jiu-jitsu coaches. We kind of hit it off. He's a filmmaker as well. He did a movie called Lion Killer, which is all about jiu-jitsu. And I just started thinking of Derek playing that role, and it would not leave my head. And he's not someone who necessarily acts all the time. He's in his movie, but it's a smaller kind of almost Hitchcockian cameo, you know. Excuse me. But I approached him one day and said, "Hey man, would you be down to play Swerve?" And he'd read the script, and he said, "Okay, well, do you think I can do it?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, it'd be perfect. We'll make it work." And so that's kind of where the whole, like, you know, whiter guy passing as black kind of angle comes to where, you know, Eric is like, "Well, you're calling me out, but what about this guy?" You know what I mean? So and Derek is mixed as well. He's Creole, but it, you know, because he's a little bit lighter of a shade, you know, it kind of like brings those questions into it too. Like, this guy gets a pass. And again, not in that situation, but I've dealt with similar situations. So, I mean, that does happen. It does exist. So, yeah, Swerve was unfortunately real. Anybody else got any questions? Nope. Okay. Well, I hope it was informative. I hope that gives you guys more of an idea of kind of what the film's about, like what the tone's going to be. For the most part, there's some sort of darker things that I actually haven't gotten to edit yet, like that scene with Angelo. So it does take a, you know, a darker sort of turn in parts. But you get the general idea, I think, and you get to see some of the. Yes, thank you, Caitlin. And I will get you your footage. I saw your message. It's been crazy. I'm actually editing that scene next. Yeah, so now you guys can kind of see where we're headed and what we have yet to do, and where I plan on piecing in all the things like the animation, the musical number, the puppets, and there's actually a Sesame Street type bit that we're doing. I wish I had that song ready, because that's another little song piece that's going to be hilarious. Again, it came to me in a dream. Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed the clips. I wanted to make sure I had them done. Sorry that we had some technical issues. Again, I don't use Zoom all that much. So, well, thank you all for showing up. I did record all this. I'll probably put it on YouTube at some point down the line. At this point, I'm still trying to hold this stuff back from the Gen Pop, so we don't give much away. But it will probably go online at some point. And I will definitely make sure to keep all you guys posted. Thank you, Seán. And thank you guys for all the support and everything. Nick will be in touch soon. I'm actually editing some scenes specifically around the animation stuff to get to you, so we kind of know where we're at. Nick Butler. Sickleys fam, thank you for showing up. Thank you for supporting. Yeah, like I said, I'll keep everybody posted. Right now, I'm just kind of waiting to see if the Houston Arts Alliance, if we get that next grant, because that will kind of sort of direct our focus on where we go. If it's just the Indiegogo funds, then I have to figure out one way to do everything, and then what to sort of wait on. If it's that plus the grant, then we could kind of almost go full steam ahead again. We also are Fishbone is actually going on tour with George Clinton and P-Funk. So that happens in August, I think, through September. So we're kind of working around Angelo's schedule on that. Ty has that play or that musical that he's doing. So we're kind of working around that too. So it'll be after the summer, no matter what. But that I'm thankful for that, because it gives me time to get my head around it all and take a running start at the next little bit that we have to do. And I hope to be in full on post-production, meaning it's with the audio guy and everything by like, ideally like the holidays. So we could maybe hit the festival circuit early next year, but because this is what it is, and it's a labor of love, and it's just a small crew of people doing it. There's no like hard deadlines or anything. So it gets done when it gets done. We want to do it right. So whatever time we need to take to do it, that's great. Again, thank you everyone for joining me and making time to check it all out. I really appreciate you. I will talk to all of you, I guess, in some form or fashion soon. You guys have a good night.